Good afternoon and welcome back to the workbench. Today I have for repair a Apple laptop charger here. It's the classic Magsafe 2. I don't think they use the Magsafe connector anymore because they've probably all switched to USB-C and all that kind of thing, but this was definitely a popular charger for quite a while, and given the expense of it, a lot of cases you want to repair it if the cable breaks, and that's what we're going to be doing today. Alright, so let's have a closer look at this thing and we can see what the problem is immediately. On this end where the cord exits the charger, you can see there's a great big burnt hole in it where it's sort of frayed and cracked and the wires have shorted together and the thing's basically just started burning. Hopefully the circuitry inside is still fine. There's no fuses been blown or anything. I guess we'll find out, but yeah, it should be hopefully a pretty relatively simple trick of cracking this thing open and re-terminating the cable inside, I guess. Hopefully, yeah, that should all be all there is. This end here is still pretty much fine. There's no issue there. The Magsafe connector itself is fine. So yeah, it's just this end here, which is fortunate because that should be the easiest to fix. I have before I repaired one of these, which had both ends. I think this end was pretty much the same kind of issue as this end, but then this end was almost getting there. So I found they had someone made copy cables on eBay, and I bought one of those and replaced it. Just replaced the whole cable, but unfortunately those are not very good quality. It would be nice if Apple sold genuine replacement cables, but they don't. You have to buy the whole charger. Which of course is quite expensive. So yeah, the copy cables are, well, they're a bit hit and miss. I think some of them will work alright and some won't. Overall, yeah, they're okay if your charger I think is 65 watts or less. I don't know if there's a 45 watt charger, there might be, but yeah, the 85 watt one like this one, apparently it doesn't work very well. The wire is just not heavy enough, not thick enough, and the connector is just not good quality enough. But yeah, if you've got a 65 watt or less, you can always take a chance on one of those cables because they're pretty cheap. I think you can get them on Amazon for maybe like $10-15 US, so it's not bad. But yeah, in this case it makes much more sense to just reconnect the original cable because that's going to be the best quality. So really all we have to do here is actually get the thing open and do that. So with the previous one that I did, what I actually used was I got my little rotary Proxon tool and I cut around the seam with a little miniature sort of saw blade wheel thing. I got some pictures of that somewhere. I never made a video of that. That was a long time ago, but yeah, just sort of cut around and managed to get the thing apart, and it came quite very cleanly. But I don't have that anymore. The cutting wheel has long since been broken, doing other things, so unfortunately I'm going to have to try something else. Now I have seen people on the internet say that if you lift up the little cord feet things, you can get a pair of pliers in here and sort of lever the thing apart. So I'm going to try that, I think. I probably need to unplug the mains cable first, I think. So I'll just take that off. And yeah, I don't know why these things fail. They seem to fail a lot. I think personally, I think it's the strain relief. I think it's too short, and I think it ends too abruptly. I notice on, and also too stiff as well, possibly. I notice on other brands of charger, the cable relief is usually twice as long as this, and it often sort of tapers down on the end. It doesn't sort of just abruptly end in a sort of hard, just a straight line. And I think with this, there's kind of like there's a rigid edge that it can just get bent and break against, just as if it was coming straight out of the body of the charger. So the strain relief I think isn't really as good as it could be, and I think maybe that's the problem. But also I think the little winding feet thing here that give people the option to go like this, well, you can see straight away this is going to get bent over quite a lot. So if you do use these, I don't know, yeah, I think just not a good design really. I think these feet just probably shouldn't be there and this should be longer. I have seen other chargers, like my IBM charger, Lenovo. The strain relief is actually horizontal to the body, so it comes out, goes at a right angle, and goes along the side of the thing, and so it stays flush with the body, but it also provides better strain relief. So, yeah, I think it's just a bad design, unfortunately. But there we go. Anyway, so let's try and get this thing open. So I've got, yeah, I've got a pair of pliers here. Oops. Let's have a look. I've seen you can just put those in here and sort of pull apart, and supposedly that should work. I can definitely hear some cracking noises, which is probably a good sign. There we go. Let's see. So I can get this in a shot here. Let's try some pliers with a squarer edge, because these ones are rounded and they'd slip off more. Let's try some square ones. Aha! There we go. That's looking quite good, isn't it? Let's try the other side. This is actually a lot easier than using that wheel that I did before. There we go. Yeah. These things glued together. We're getting there. Let's see. Let's try it from this side again. Pop. There we go. It's getting somewhere now. Trick is getting this side. I don't really want to damage it too much and make too much a mess of the case, because you don't really want to have a whole lot of horrible kind of gouge marks in it. It's much better if you can sort of crack it cleanly and then glue it back together later. So yeah, it looks like just this part here. I may have to use a screwdriver at this point. Try to use this one and lever it in, maybe. Let's see, it's working my way around here. Seems to work all right. Let's see. Are we getting there? We're getting there. Yeah. Take that spring out for the foot thing. So this part around here is the easiest part, but it's just this, and this bit you can get with a screwdriver quite easily. Just going in there and working it around, but it seems like this seam here is the toughest part. So yeah, I mean, I could stick my screwdriver in here and try and crack from this side, but of course we risk putting a dent in that. Let's try it this way. Maybe if I go like this. Oh, there we go. That got it. That's pretty good. That's quite clean. Yeah, that's not too bad. That's not too bad at all. Okay, so we've got these bits over there. So that's the thing. That's all the cord. In fact, let's take that out of the way there. that's irrelevant at this point. Now, so we've got the charger itself. Nicely shielded from EMI and everything, which is good. Yeah, we've got the cord there, so that's just 2 wires soldered down to the circuit board down there. You can see, so we've got the strain relief bit. So now I need to get the board out of the other side of the case. Let's see. I see. So we got this other side of the mains connector is going to be glued into this bottom part. So I think I'm going to have to, yeah, figure out how to get that out. Might have to do the same thing with a screwdriver. Let's see. Maybe I'll go from this side. Can maybe bring that like this. Twist a little bit. Okay. There we go. Oh, that's easy. That's only slightly glued in. Excellent. Okay, and is that going to come out? There's probably more glue like this on the other side of the board and everything, I guess. Yeah, I don't know if you can't really see in there, but I can see more glue. Like I said, it's been a long time since I opened one of these, so I can't really remember how anything goes together. Obviously you've got to watch there. There is a circuit board directly there with some surface mount components, so you don't want to break those off or anything. But if I just slide this in between the shield and the plastic, not under the shield and against the circuit board, just got to be careful with that. Should get the glue. I guess a spudger, a nice thin spudger would be better for this, but this should also work. There we go. I got that half off. So that exposes the rest of the board. Let's get that bit of glue out of the way. So now we have access here. So that's the so these are the 2 connectors there. We got obviously that's probably ground there, and that's probably the positive, as far as I can tell. Now we do have a fuse there, it looks like. That little white square thing just here, I think. Let's see if you can see. There we go. Yeah, the little 2 gold ends on it. That square little white thing just there between the cables. So that's yeah, that'll be some kind of fuse. So hopefully that isn't blown. We can actually see on here. If it would focus, I may have to put a separate picture in. But yeah, we actually do a marking here. This cable is marked silkscreen. It says ground, and this one says V out. So that's the 20 volt output. So it is pretty obvious which one's which. So the black is ground and V out is white. At least that makes a bit of sense. Color code is not some sort of weird thing. It's fairly logical. So that's good. Okay, so yeah, I guess what I'd like to do here is make sure that it is outputting 20 volts. Make sure nothing's bad, because if this is blown, obviously, if the fuse is blown, I have to replace that and do any other repair if necessary. Yeah, there's no point fixing the cable if the fuse is blown. So let's just deal with that first. I'm just going to cut these wires for a moment, and we can just test that directly. So making sure we got that off there. Put that to the side there. So we've got a ground and our 20 volts. So I should be able to strip those and just do a quick check. Make sure. That's just heat shrink on that one. If I plug this in, we get 3 volts, which probably makes sense, to be honest. I imagine this thing has some kind of smart voltage detection because of the plug on the end has some kind of active circuitry in it. So yeah, but anyway, we do get power output, so the fuse is not blown. If the fuse is blown, we get nothing. So I'd say it probably sends 3 volts to the plug circuitry, and then as long as that's working, it'll go up to 20 volts later on. So it probably potentially works quite similar to USB-C charging with different voltage levels, I would guess. I don't actually know. I didn't look this up before, but I suspect that it is probably the case. But yeah, without some kind of communication with the power lead or the laptop itself, it's probably not going to do the full voltage at that point. So yeah, anyway, for now let's focus on repairing the lead, and then we can figure out how to reconnect this back again. So bearing in mind that this probably has a charged main filter capacitor now, I'll just put that off to the side there. And we'll have a look at this, which is the main point of the whole thing. So obviously that's no good, so we're going to have to cut that off. Now, let's well, actually, I don't know. I won't just strip that just yet. I was looking at this cable before, and I did notice, where is it? Ah yes, in this area here, there are some sort of marks there, damage. Looks like maybe a cat has chewed it or something. or something. So I think in this area here, I want to put some heat shrink over this, just to give it a bit more protection, maybe of that on that area. So yeah, before I deal with that, I'll get some heat shrink. But what I want to try and do is reuse this strain relief. So I have an idea. To slice this in half, or slice it down one side on the half, and pull these wires out, and then we can, once we redo these, I can push those back in through this and glue them in there, and then we can reuse this whole thing, because obviously the case is designed that this has to be in the side, unless you just want to like stuff the wire in the hole and fill it up with epoxy, which is a possible alternative, but I want to see if we can use this and make it a bit nicer, and yeah, just a bit better. So yeah, let's try and cut this open. So I'm going to go on the moulding seam where this thing already was, which is on the side here. There's obviously 2 of them, but yeah. So we just want to try and cut on that point there. very tough. Very tough. Alright, so it looks like trying to cut this one in half would be an absolute nightmare because it's incredibly tough, but fortunately I did find another one from the previous cord that I had in fact replaced on the other charger, as I mentioned before, and I was able to cut that one off very easily. So I've just sliced it down the side, as you can see, and yeah, pulled the old cable out, so they're not welded in or anything, or melded in, or whatever. They're literally just, this is molded around the cable, so you can take the old cable out of the old strain relief, provided you can cut down the side and pull everything out. So yeah, so we'll just put this one aside. I don't think that'll be as easy to do, so don't have to worry about that. But yeah, this new cable should be easy to just fit through there, you see. And I just need to strip this, put heat shrink, strip it back, put heat shrink on both of the things and get that through there, glue this together, and then solder it onto here, and that should solve the problem. But like I said, first I want to put some heat shrink maybe on this end here, on that bit in the middle there where it's a bit damaged. Okay, so I found a bit of white heat shrink here. I'm going to put that around this end that's got this damage there. I don't like the look of that. It's a bit sort of dodgy. It's possible the cable may start trying to break at that point too, so yeah, I just want to put some of that on there as well, just to make it a bit better. Yeah, to give it a bit of chance of survival. Right, so that should make that end a bit better anyway. And now we've got to deal with this end. So I'm going to shove this bit here on, just in case I need it for anything. If I don't, I can always cut it off later. But yeah, there we go. So now it's time to strip this and start trying to rebuild this end. So let's see. Let's cut about this much, I think. There we go. Alright, whoops. Have I got this in shot? So obviously this outer braid, well, this outer wiring is the shield, the ground. We've got like a sort of a cloth bit in the middle, probably some sort of construction thing to make it easier to produce or something. I'm not entirely sure how that works. Anyway, that together. As for this fibre thing, we can just cut that off. It's not particularly doing anything. So, twist all that together there. What I'm going to need to do is heat shrink that separately as well. And then we can see how that will go through this. We've got these two holes here. Yeah, looks like the white wire probably goes through the smaller one and the black one with heat shrink goes on the other, so just need to get a bit more heat shrink. Got this one here, I don't know if that'll be... Oh yeah, that will probably fit. Alright. Just measure that. Cut this maybe to there. So I'm going to sleeve that on here. Well, I think what I'll actually do is I wonder if I can get something like this over both of them. Yeah, because I think this one, this wire is still a little loose inside this cable clamp. So I'll put a little bit of that just at the end there, where that goes in. Alright, so got that bit there. I must put some solder on this so that it's got a nice thing I can stick through the hole. Actually, I think I was going to try and... Well, you see the thing with this is we've got two sort of crimp terminals that are then, the wires are crimped onto and then they're soldered through these holes. The problem is they're soldered on quite well. I'll see if I can desolder these because it would be much easier. I may try wicking some of this off. Just seeing if I can do anything like that. There we go, I got that one out. See if I can do the same for the other one. Wow, yeah, removing these wire connections from the board is a right pain. They're very heavy wire, and yeah. There you go, sure to see. Finally got both holes cleared. So let's just trim that one down too. Righty-ho. So I just want to turn that into a nice little solid thing that can go through the hole easily. Alright. And those will just go in there like that, and then that will go in the strain relief. So now we have to figure that out. So we've got this one. And this will go together like this, basically. So yeah, so my basic idea, so this will sit in here like that. Just make sure this all actually makes sense. And that will sit in there like this. Yep, and we've got enough wire length that that'll actually fit in there. So that should be alright. So I don't know, what's that, 1.5 centimetres or so? You could probably get away with about 2 centimetres. You wouldn't get, well, wouldn't want to go too long, otherwise you end up trying to jam that in there and it's not going to fit very well. But yeah, basically what I want to do is take this strain relief, fill it with glue, and then put this wire inside of it, and then just clamp it together. I'm going to try and open this up. Try and hold it open with something. I don't know if I've got anything. Maybe this paintbrush handle. There we go. Okay, and I got some glue here. I got this stuff. F2. It says, I don't know. No idea. It says it is flexible, which is what I wanted. Something that wouldn't be rock hard. So we'll see if that actually works. Yeah, who knows. Just gonna put some of that in there. Don't want to put too much, I guess, because it'll all squeeze out when the cable goes in anyway, I suppose. And then yeah, I'm just gonna put that in there. So let's see. There we go. Got some of it in there. Maybe I'll put just a little bit more. Let's clamp it with these. Maybe, here we go. Does this work? No, that's too small. So I might clamp that side. I'll just put it on in my vise off camera. Fortunately, I didn't expect it to be bright yellow, but oh well, that's fine. Like I said, it doesn't really matter as long as it's glued in there. Okay, so I'm just going to wipe off the excess glue. Alright, the glue isn't completely dry yet, but you can see I put a piece of heat shrink over the end there, and it goes up on the side of this one, and then you can see there's the slit in the side where I've put the glue in, and I also put a little cable tie on the end there, and some more glue around that, so that should all hold it together and prevent the thing from being pulled out. Then yeah, all I have to do is wait for that glue to set, and can solder it back in. I may actually solder it back in and then glue the case back together, and then use the case to clamp this together as well, and just let everything set at once. Alright, so in the interest of my sanity, I think what I'll do is I'll solder this wire back onto this now, and then I'll get some glue, mix up some glue to glue the case back together, and then I'll use the case to hold the wire assembly back together as that glue there dries as well. So otherwise I have to wait for the glue on the cable to dry, and then I have to do the glue on the case, and it's just, yeah, it will end up twice as long. So I think I'll do it quicker by just doing it that way. So there we go. So there's the cable, and like I said, ground goes on this side there, and it says so right here, as you can probably see there in the middle. If the camera stays in focus, you can see the ground labelled up here. That's the ground connection, obviously, and then V out is the positive connection, which in this case, for an 85 watt charger, is 20 volts or so. So yeah, just make sure that, and obviously in this this cable here, black. Well, I've sleeved this black with heat shrink, but yeah, so the black is the shield, that's negative, and the white is the positive. Just make sure you get that round the right way. Otherwise, bad things will happen. So this will just go in here. It looks like I didn't tin the white wire properly. Hang on. Just have to do that properly. You don't want to make those too thick with too much solder, otherwise it won't go through the hole. But if you don't have enough, then all the wires will just fray out when you try to stick it in the hole, and that won't work either. Which is a very bad thing, because then it can short to the components near the hole. So you want to make sure that everything is through the hole and not sticking out anywhere randomly all over the place. Whoops. So there we go, we've got ground. There we go. So that just goes in there like that, and then I can solder it on. It's a good idea to turn your iron temperature up a little bit with this, because these are quite big plated through holes, and they take a bit of heat to melt. And this one is a little more annoying, because you got to go through the through a hole in this plastic layer. They do have a hole already pre-cut, but it's pretty tight. So yeah, you might need a small tip on your iron to get through there, or you could probably just cut that plastic off, maybe, or something like that. There we go. That looks pretty good. So now, I said I just got to get this back in the case. Yep, that looks pretty good. Inspect that joint, make sure it's nice. Yep, nothing funny on the top there. It's all good, nothing sticking out, everything looks clean. Yep, okay, so let's see. So then we can put this down in here. And this will just sit in there like that. So that just sits in there like this. And then when I glue the top on and clamp that on there, that'll all hold that together. So that'll clamp the glue on that for me as well. So that's excellent. So I just need to put some glue into the bottom half of this. That'll work, okay. I'm going to mix up some glue and get that in there. Probably just use some araldite or some GB weld. Shouldn't need very much. Just a little bit to go around the edges of the case. You could also just not even bother with glue and you could just use duct tape or something. That would also work. Although that would look worse. This may be too much glue. Never mind. It's always nice to have too much than not enough. So you have to mix this stuff up and then leave it for about 5-10 minutes and then mix it again and then use it. So okay, so I'm waiting for this glue to well, do whatever it does for 10 minutes. I thought that I'd just do a quick test of the thing to make sure everything was correct so far. So on this thing has 5 pins. I think the magnet outside is not connected to anything, but the 5 pins are power and ground, and then there's an ID pin in the middle. So the center pin is like communications for the light on this plug and stuff like that. I think it tells it what wattage it is and everything like that too. And then the outer 2 pins are ground, and the inner 2 pins are positive, and the center pin is a serial communication thing. So if I go one here on a ground and this on a positive, we get 3 volts. And yeah, that's apparently normal for a Magsafe 2, which is what this is. It'll supply 3 volts just to start with, and then when it's plugged into a laptop, that will tell it to do something, tell it to activate, and then it will send out the full power, which in this case is 20 volts, because it's a 85 watt charger. The lower wattage ones have a lower voltage apparently. So we can just check both pairs of pins here. So yeah, 3 volts there on that pair as well. So everything's connected, everything's still fine on this end, everything's around the right way, the voltage is correct. So yeah, everything looks fine. So it should just be a case of gluing the thing back together, and it should work. Obviously I don't think I can actually test it under load, because I don't have the required laptop, but it should be fine. I mean, the thing was working until the cord failed, and that was all that was wrong with it, so I can't imagine why it wouldn't work, and all the signs so far point to it as being functional. So yeah, it's just that cable basically, I would say, is all that we need to worry about. So yeah, we'll just do that. It's probably time to put this back together. Now, it's worth noting these little feet things do have to go in a certain way, and you've got these little spring parts as well that help make them work. So that goes in on the inside here in a little slot, like that. And we got one on the other side that goes the same way, so it just slots into a little groove. There we go. Alright, so when I cracked this in half, it sort of made a groove in this half here, and on this side we got sort of bits sticking up. So I think it'd be easiest to put some glue down in that sort of in that groove side, and then just put the other one on top. So yeah. Probably don't want to put too much in case you actually want to get the thing back open again at some point. But just enough that it's not going to fall apart either. Which also wouldn't be that fun, would it? The good thing with this epoxy stuff is that if you get it hot enough, it will soften. So it's plausible, I guess, with something like this, you could use a heat sensitive glue or something that you could sort of heat up and soften if you wanted to get back in there at a later time, or something like that. Yeah. Or you could just use duct tape around the outside. That's also a plausible option. I would say though, most likely it'll be the other end of the power cord that breaks off before anything else fails on this charger, so it doesn't really matter. That's why I'm just going to glue it back together. Because yeah, like I said, the only option then to fix it at that point, I think, is getting a knockoff cable, which, well, like I said, they're not very good. They don't work. They're not worth bothering with, and none of them will work on this because it's an 85 watt charger anyway, so that's all completely irrelevant. But yeah, let's put a little bit up here, and there we go. So make sure to get these little feet in the correct place. So that just clips in there like that in the holes. There's a little dimple that they fit in. And now just got to get this cable in the right place. There we go. And put the top on. Oh dear. Yep, there we go. That all seems to work. It all seems to work. So yeah. That could do with being clamped together, which is what I shall do to it. Just make sure that these work. Yep. Those work. Excellent. Okay. And yeah. I'll go and get some clamps and clamp this together. And then I guess that's pretty much it. Wait till the glue squeezes out around the edges and then wipe it off. So there we go, not too bad for a rainy Sunday. That's that, it's all glued back together. I'm just waiting for it to cure. So it'll be probably about 12 hours or something for this epoxy stuff. And then after that it should be fine. I'll take it back to the owner. So yeah, it's not hard to do this, really, I guess, as long as it's that end of the cable that's broken. This end I'm not sure about. But yeah, it's a bit tricky, but it's not difficult. I think if the cable breaks outside here with a reasonable length, it'd be easier just to splice the things back together and put some heat shrink on it. But at this point, where it's broken right next to the thing, as you can see there, yeah, pretty much the only option is to, like I said, either cut the original strain relief down the side. Like I did with that other one. I found it difficult to cut this one. This one's very tough. Seems to be a newer one. It's thicker and tougher than the old ones, than that one there. So, yeah, I think you have to get like a pretty good scalpel or something to cut that in half. But either that's one option, or you could just ignore the strain relief entirely and just make your own out of heat shrink and epoxy and stuff like that, cable ties, or whatever. Obviously you don't want to have the thing totally loose, but you know, if you had to make your own, maybe you could even 3D print your own or something if you had something like that. So yeah, who knows. But for me it was good. I could just reuse an old one, so it should be fine. Just glue it all back together. That's pretty much that. That's how you can fix a Magsafe 2, and probably Magsafe 1 as well. I don't know. Like I said, don't know much about Apple products. Don't really work on them very often or anything. So yeah. But anyway, this should work. So there we go. Hopefully that was useful. Hopefully that was interesting, and I'll see you next time.